Hi, I'm Jamie Falco. Welcome to Flavors of East Brunswick, showcasing our diversity through cuisine. This program is sponsored by the East Brunswick Human Relations Council and EBTV. Today, we'll be making shrimp Fra Diavolo. The Feast of Seven Fishes is part of a traditional Italian Christmas Eve dinner. I will be sharing with you one of our favorites. Christmas is a really special holiday for me as a person of faith and also as an Italian Catholic woman. It has been an important gathering for our family since before I can remember. Before we were born, my grandmother would have family to her home and serve us 7 courses of food. We would open presents one by one under the Christmas tree. And some of the memories are just the food and the smells, the laughter, all the parts of family that make you feel the warmest. And, you know, it makes me think back to a time where my mom was hosting Christmas Eve here in this house. This kitchen looked a little different back then, but nonetheless, we were so pleased to be singing Christmas carols, which is one of our family's traditions. My grandfather is a World War II veteran. Rick Pichata had no teeth in his head and a beautiful set of dentures. He also loved music and would sing. He wrote poetry that's in the State Library about his life and experiences. And Rick was so full of life that while singing Deck the Halls, his dentures came flying out of his mouth. Unbeknownst to myself, my cousin Lou and my mom and my Aunt Flora, who were standing in a line next to him, all singing, and all of a sudden we get laughter. And we're singing, fa la 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 la. And my cousin Ricky falls out of his chair, laughing so hard. And I'm getting a little irate at this point because why are you laughing at my Christmas carols? I am the number 10 alto in the state of New Jersey. I know I'm on pitch. Finally, we get to the end of the song and see my grandfather shoving these teeth in his mouth for the last fa-la-las. And so, you know, that Christmas tradition of food and fun and family, it's so important to me, and I'm really pleased to be sharing that with you today. Shrimp Fra Diavolo has several ingredients, namely shrimp. Your Fra Diavolo base doesn't always have to include white wine. The recipe that I've provided today, it does include white wine. However, you could certainly use just canned tomatoes with garlic and onions. Here I have the tomatoes, garlic, and onions we'll be using for the base of the sauce. The shrimp are already coated with about 1 teaspoon of salt and roughly a tablespoon of crushed red pepper flakes. You don't want to overcook your shrimp initially. If you overcook your shrimp, they'll be a little tough. The idea is to let them stay a little bit gray so that when you cook them in the sauce, they'll be able to absorb the juices and really melt into the Fra Diavolo sauce. Fra Diavolo means devil's brother. It does have kick. If you think that 1 teaspoon is better for your palate for heat for your crushed pepper flakes, I definitely suggest adjusting. However, as an Italian woman, I do not back down on garlic. While Giada's recipe calls for 3 cloves, today I am using 5, which is still considered moderation in my family. So we're going to come on over here and I'm going to start the pan. When you're preparing anything in stainless steel, it's very important to preheat the pan. Once the pan is heated, you can add your oil and then add your ingredients that you're sautéing. So while we let this warm up, I'd like to show you some other dishes that we make. In addition to the shrimp Fra Diavolo, I do have the antipasto, as my family would prepare it. We would use lettuce as a base for the salad, and then we use oil, vinegar, salt, and pepper. We would drizzle that on. Much to my mother's dismay, I'm not preparing this exactly as she would. She would have dressed the greens prior to putting them on, but for presentation purposes today, just know that if you drizzled it on, it would still be almost acceptable in my family. And then we actually keep the accoutrements separate. So you can choose to add your meats, salami, ham, There's provolone cheese, we have roasted red peppers, we have marinated mushrooms from an Italian market, because heaven forbid my mother get anything from a jar. Marinated artichoke hearts, black olives, which we used to stick on our fingers and have alien fingers as kids. And then of course tomatoes, because what salad doesn't need a good Jersey tomato? So all we would do to prepare this is I do 1 part oil, to maybe 2 or 3 parts vinegar. Again, you could add the tomatoes yourself, you could serve them separate, however your family prefers its food to touch. We all have different feelings about that. But in our family, we would have the cheese and the salami and the pepperoni as the base of the salad, because meat is an important part of the antipasto. And I think the pan should be about ready by now. So I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of olive oil. There's no such thing as too much garlic and too much oil. There is definitely such thing as not enough. And check your heat to make sure it's on a medium-ish heat. You don't want to scorch anything. When the oil in the pan has a nice liquidy look to it, that means that it's sufficiently warm to start sautéing. One trick people do is they'll take a little bit of water on their fingers and spatter it in the pan. I don't like to make messes. I use my cooking intuition from generations before me. And so we just go for it. And when you hear that beautiful sizzle, it means you're doing okay. So again, you're going to cook these shrimp maybe only a minute or 2, not too long that they're fully cooked. In the background, we have the pasta water boiling. That pasta only takes about 2 minutes typically with real pasta. Box pasta can take longer. And so you want to definitely turn the shrimp, keep them moving as you're sautéing. Until they have that gentle, gentle pink. And then we're going to go ahead and pull them off. You want to retain the juices of everything. That adds flavor as you cook. You never want to clean a pan. You lose all the beautiful brownings and flavors that as you cook your food would then lend to your final dish. So we'll just scoop all these beautiful shrimp up, set them aside. It's okay if they cool. We'll be adding them back in after. We have our tomatoes. So we're gonna add this in, along with some garlic. And we're gonna throw in 1 medium onion. We're gonna let all this meld and cook together a bit. Recommend slicing the onion thin. You can use a mandolin slicer, you can slice by hand, but you don't want them to be in chunks. Also, when you cut the tomatoes with the scissors, you're looking for not a pureed consistency, but a little bit of chunk, because you want those little pieces of tomato to stick on your shrimp. That's part of what makes this dish so good, is everything just kind of blends together. So we are gonna actually turn that up a little and let this cook down. We're gonna add 1 cup of dry white wine. Now, you can use cooking dry wine. I don't. I use wine that I could then serve to my family and friends. So today we'll be using an Italian Pinot Grigio. A Pinot Gris would also be a good wine for this. And you can pretty much get those at any liquor store. So we're going to pour out 1 cup. And add that over to our sauce. We're also going to add some salt and just a little bit of oregano. And would you believe we're almost done? You gotta let this cook down for about 10 to 12 minutes. You add your shrimp back in, cook that for a few minutes, and voila. So you give this a nice little stir. And I wish you guys could smell this on camera. It smells really good. Can't wait for you to try this at home. If you don't like shrimp, there's plenty of other seafood that could go into this. Out of respect for my mother, who does not like mussels, we didn't do mussels today. You can also put langoustine, lobster, scallops, calamari. You know, there's so many different things that can go into this. It can be a shrimp Fra Diavolo, a seafood Fra Diavolo. So definitely, if you enjoy seafood, you can always combine your fishes to create that 7 fish even within one dish. No rhyme was intended. So we're just gonna let that cook a little bit more. Looks like the pasta water's ready. I did not make my own pasta from scratch. I was a little busy for that, so I apologize. I hope I didn't offend any fellow Italians in the community with this. We are using buitoni pasta today, and it should be pretty good. You can use fettuccine as a base, you could use linguine, you could use really any pasta that's ribbon shaped, because that's also going to wrap up those little chunks of tomatoes and all that flavor and the red pepper flakes. Yeah, the nice thing about when you are cooking and you do your prep ahead of time is you get to enjoy the time with family. And so one of our family traditions would be to start cooking quite early, as early as about 9 in the morning. We would wash up, peel 4 or 5 pounds of carrots, 10 pounds of potatoes. You know, we would make a roast, mashed potatoes, carrots, fish dishes. There was usually shrimp cocktail, antipasto. There are so many different things, and it just depended on what we wanted that year. There'd usually be at least 2 pasta courses because one wasn't enough. And this was all with my mother's side of the family. On my dad's side, the shrimp cocktail was the highlight of the 7 fishes. My grandmother would pretty much clean out Costco to make sure that all 31 of her grandchildren had enough shrimp to eat. My dad is the oldest of 8 children. He grew up in Asbury Park. My mom is the youngest of 3 and grew up in Highland Park. There is a pretty big Catholic presence in central New Jersey, and then somehow they found each other at Trenton State and decided that Asbury and Highland Park's midpoint was East Brunswick. So in 1986, when my parents moved here, they had no idea what kind of beautiful traditions and you know, the things we would enjoy would be to come. So one of the important things about the sauce is to consider how cooked your onions are. When you put raw onions in, they soften. Now, sausage and peppers, case in point. While I'm not preparing that today, that was one of the courses my family would often have. We would go to midnight mass, and after that we would come home and enjoy sausage and peppers and sauce. And so my grandmother, being the staunch Italian woman who would never relent on the quality of her food, she would prepare it as we got home to ensure that the peppers and the onions were just perfect, with a little bit of crisp left in them. In this case, though, you're going to want to soften these onions down quite a bit. So I have a pretty good simmer going here. And these probably need about 6 or 7 more minutes based on how they look. As you stir, separate them. I cook with stainless steel just because that's my personal preference. You could cook in other things, but what I like about the stainless steel spoon is when I push on the onions, I personally just know how firm they are from working with the same type of tool every time. And so we'll let these go here. Let's have a look at the water back here. That is boiling beautifully. We could just let that go. So we're almost at the point where we can add the shrimp back in. And as you remember, our shrimp are partially cooked. They still have some gray in the pink. Leave them right here so they know what their fate is. All of this will end up in my belly. I might share. That's the one thing about my family is we are really good at making too much food and then mustering up the strength to enjoy it anyway. And one of the things I love about the Flavors of East Brunswick is that I get to learn about foods that are associated with our different neighbors and what brings them joy and what brings their memories forward. So I really appreciate being part of this today. This is a beautiful experience for me to share my love of this town, my love of food, and my love of family with you. And I'm thinking these onions are pretty close to ready. The sauce is looking good. A little thin still, but it'll cook down as we go. So we're gonna add these shrimp back in carefully as not to splash. Make sure you get all the juices that come with it. And now, as I mentioned, you can spice accordingly for how you like your heat with things. I may end up adding a little more crushed red pepper. Haven't decided yet. You guys didn't see me measure anything. Dirty confession, I don't measure. I just use my sixth sense of cooking and hope for the best. And I think I've made it pretty far in life that my kids like my food, so I'm gonna keep going that way. 100% they won't eat this though. If there's even a hint of a red pepper flake on the table, whether it's in the food or not, they're vehemently averse to it. Now what's great, again, as I mentioned, is you don't have to do any red pepper. You can just make this shrimp in a red marinara sauce if you like. So this is really coming along nice. At this point is when I'm gonna go ahead and put the pasta in. That fresh pasta, as I mentioned, takes 1 or 2, like 2 to 3 minutes maybe. Sorry, Nona, it's not me. How do I open this? Scissors. Last thing I have to do to help that sauce along is we're gonna cut up some herbs. So once this pasta goes in, we're gonna go ahead and do maybe 3 tablespoons each of some fresh Italian parsley and 3 tablespoons or so of some fresh basil. I apologize again, these are not my herbs. I do grow herbs in the garden, however, we devoured them. So we got these from the local market. And we're gonna wanna salt this water. Maybe a teaspoon or so. I don't like to make my pasta too salty. You can always add salt. You can't take salt out of things. One trick though with tomatoes is when you're cooking them, don't skimp too much on salt. The salt helps to break down and add sweetness to them without adding sugar. Sugar will lower acidity, but it changes the taste of the sauce. I don't personally care for that. So I try to sweeten with salt and then just cook down slowly. All right, so while that's going there, we can chop some herbs. So I like chopping with scissors. You could rip them with your hands. It's whatever you really like. You know, the cool thing about cooking is that it's also an art. You can enjoy it. It's beautiful, it's colorful, it's fragrant, it inspires your senses, and it's so much fun. Parsley is such a different smell than the shrimp and everything I'm working with, that it's gonna come together beautifully. Nothing beats fresh basil. That smell is just amazing. So fun aside, since you didn't see my prep, I do want to give a small shout out to our Sustainability Task Force. Composting and environmental awareness are super important to me. So that's why you don't see any plastics. I try to use reusable and washable things to save on resources. And that looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and throw this in because this is looking just about done. So let me check on that pasta. That should almost be ready. You can always strain your pasta with a strainer. I like to just grab it with tongs if it's a ribbon pasta. Usually doesn't break if you don't grab it too hard. And then you can always check your pasta if you're not sure if it's ready. Grab a little piece. Quick taste test for texture. We have some sauce. And voila! Shrimp Fra Diavolo, fresh from the stove. Oh, very steamy too. much as I love cooking, I do like eating more. Really excited to dig in and see how it came out. So I do twirl my pasta. I don't need a spoon, but feel free to grab a spoon if you need it. If you see, you got the nice juice stuck on the pasta here. Al dente pasta, just the right amount of spice, not too salty, not too sweet. Beautiful. Please contact the Human Relations Council or EBTV if you'd like to be featured on the next episode of Flavors of East Brunswick. For now, I'm Jamie Falco signing off, wishing you all a wonderful holiday season full of warmth, happiness, and wonderful memories.